All right. Today I thought we would try something just a little bit different, a little bit more casual. So I figured I would talk and honestly just chat a little bit about some of the barriers that may come up now that I am doing single parent duty for a week. And hopefully this can help you all get your workouts in and maybe readjust your expectations as far as what you can get done and being okay with that. So let's get to the number one thing is household chores. So on top of watching my boys right now, I also have to make sure that while my wife's away, things get done around the house. And these things could easily get in the way of our training and nutrition, especially if you have perfectionistic tendencies, kind of like myself. So I think the rule that helps me out here is I have my laundry to get done. I have to do the laundry. I have to fold and put it away. I also have to get the dishes out of the dishwasher, put the new dishes into the dishwasher, and it would be easy to look at these things and need to get them all done 100%. And I think the perfectionist inside of me would say you have to do it that way. However, I have this 80% rule, not to be confused with the 80-20 rule, but the rule is 80% done is better than 0% started. So I say that and I remind myself of that because I think it's important to know that we aren't going to get everything done that we want to get done throughout the week. And just because we're not going to get it completed or finished doesn't mean we cannot start it and doesn't mean we cannot get it to at least 80%. Who knows, maybe you get it to 90%. But just remember, a short rule is 80% done is better than 0% started, and that can help kickstart the first couple minutes of getting something done, and you can get those things accomplished and completed, and then you can move on to your training and nutrition goals. So it's important to sort of back away and make room for some of our tendencies and to utilize skills that is going to help us get things done as opposed to sort of pushing it off and not even attempting them. So that's the first barrier I struggle with is chores and the desire to get them 100% done. And so backing off and just doing 80% has helped me to this point. The second barrier I see is not being an early riser. So for me, I don't want to take for granted that I had a very lucky late adolescent experience. So I got to work at my uncle's bakery for a number of years in my late teens to early 20s. And my dad and I, he was the mixer, we'd have to go in before everybody else and we would have to make the dough. We would leave the house at around 3:30, get there around 3:45, 4 o'clock. And so early to rise, I had this sort of developmental experience that allowed that to be really easy for me to ingrain. But for some of us who don't have that experience or find it hard to rise, here are the things that I would do to sort of begin transitioning to that so that you can start carving out more time for your workouts and maybe getting your workouts in earlier in the day as opposed to pushing them off into the late evening or afternoon. So number one, setting a standard bedtime. I think research points to getting a more consistent sleeping pattern as opposed to more time. It's going to be very beneficial. So if I was going to bed at 11, I would try for the next week to scale it back to 10:45 or 10:30, do that for a week, and then begin chipping away until I'm going to bed at the time that I would like. And then number two, I would start scaling back my media use or media intake. Ideally, a couple hours before bed, you're not on a phone. But realistically, if you can get it down to 30 minutes or shoot even up to an hour, that is going to allow you to sort of calm your mind down and not be too overstimulated when you go to bed. And so that's going to be another thing that's going to allow you to get up and be a more early riser. And then last thing, I would say if your alarm clock is your phone, sort of shifting to a standard alarm clock would be my last thing that I would do. I would also, if you're having a hard time getting up, I would put that alarm clock sort of across the room so that you can't hit snooze. If you're a snooze person, I apologize. I'm not a snooze person. I generally beat my alarm up. But if you are a snooze person, I think putting your alarm clock across the room is going to be very beneficial. And that's going to help sort of reduce the barrier of you just not wanting to get up out of bed. Number three is just sort of a mind shift, redefining what a successful week of training and nutrition looks like. And I think the metaphor that I want to introduce here is zooming in versus zooming out. I think it is really easy to zoom into a situation whenever we have not done something the way we wanted to. Maybe we had to skip a meal because there's been a meeting at work. Maybe we had to skip a meal because our kids were needing something of us in that moment. Maybe we had to cut a training session short because we train at 4 o'clock in the morning, and maybe one of our boys got up and started yelling for us on the monitor. Maybe that happened. And so we fall short in some ways. And I think in a lot of instances, it is great to have compassion and to acknowledge that, we are not perfect. But I think redefining what a successful week looks like, to me, means zooming out. So when we mess up or fail, we zoom in. I think to sort of get away from that mentality, we have to zoom back out. So instead of zooming in on the single meal that we missed or the training session that we missed, we zoom out to the entirety of the week. Did we hit 80% of our workouts? Did we hit 80 to 90% of our nutrition? And in the off season or in a time whenever it's not imperative that we hit all these things, that's a successful training week. If I zoom out even further and I look at the month, this past month, did I hit 80 to 90% of my sort of training volume and 80 to 90% of my macros? If I did, that's a successful month. So redefining what success is by, instead of zooming in very sort of myopically and zooming out and taking a broader look at your overall training and nutrition goals, is something that has helped me before and continues to help me in terms of just the way that I feel. Because you got to remember, like, these thoughts in the sort of cognitive model, thoughts drive feelings, feelings drive behaviors. And if you begin thinking sort of negatively, that's going to drive emotions that aren't going to suit you very well. And then that may lead to more behaviors. Maybe you start missing more training sessions. Maybe you start missing more meals because you already feel like you have failed. But if you can zoom out and take a slightly broader perspective on things, then maybe you can feel a certain way and continue to achieve the things that you want to achieve. So that was barrier number 3, sort of redefining what success is. And the last thing, overthinking. Overthinking is a barrier to us sort of engaging in our fitness goals and fitness endeavors. I talk to a lot of people that is sort of this paralysis by analysis. I think a lot of this comes from perfectionism and worry. And if we have too many things going on in our heads, it is hard to start doing things for ourselves. And this may include working out, taking care of our bodies, lifting weights. And so I think the most powerful thing that I've done for myself, perfectionism, paralysis by analysis, hasn't really plagued me. But if it did, if I had a lot of things on my plate, and I do, I'm juggling a lot of things, trying to keep the house together, trying to keep the boys situated, is list making. So this is something I talk about all the time with the people I work with, is if you have 1,000 things in your head that you need to do, your mind will continue to sort of turn those over until they have resolved or until you get them down on a piece of paper. I highly recommend, as opposed to sort of jotting these down on your phone, just getting a Post-it note or a sticky and creating a list of the things you need to do for the day. For me, the Post-it note, I put the Monday through Friday date labels on there. So I don't know, 2/5 through 2/10, whatever the month and day are. And then I start making my list. Maybe that is, I need to bring diapers to daycare. Maybe that is, I need to cram in these 2 workouts. Maybe that is, I need to fill out for a new business credit card. Maybe I need to do X, Y, and Z for school. Any number of things. And I just sort of mind dump onto this little Post-it note. And, I try to prioritize them, try to rank order them. But throughout my week, I start to check these off as soon as I can. And I just start from the top and go through. And if I end up checking off something a little bit sooner, I just check it off. And when that Post-it note gets filled, I switch to a new Post-it note, and that Post-it note gets taken with me. Now, sometimes that Post-it note is in my pocket. Sometimes it's on a notebook, but it allows me to stop overthinking and to be paralyzed or to feel so anxious that I'm not going to be able to get everything done, because I am sort of reinforcing the use of the list because it feels good to check things off. And number 2, I know for certain that I am checking these things off, and this allows my mind to sort of calm down and not have to think about them. So I think that is the sort of last powerful thing that I do for myself so that I can get my workouts in, I can get my nutrition in, so that I can have enough time in the morning to prepare my meals, do my workouts, get the house situated, and get my boys situated so that I can get them off, and so that I can continue sort of this fitness journey, and so that I can make time to make these videos. And I guess shooting this video in this way was also a way to be kind to myself, to try and get what I have inside to you all. Because, I don't have all the time in the world. And on a week like this, whenever I am by myself and I don't have my partner in crime to help me out with the boys, I need to readjust my expectations for how I'm going to create these things. And I think that's another powerful sort of reframe that I've done for myself as well. Whenever you're in a relationship with somebody, there's a saying out there, unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments. And I think when you flip the mirror around and turn it back onto yourself, if you have such expectations for yourself that aren't spoken, you can begin to feel negatively about yourself and about how much you haven't done. But if you say your expectations out loud, frame them within what's in your control and what's out of your control, I think you can begin adjusting your expectations into a sort of more realistic view and allow you to get more of your stuff done. This episode was about helping you all sort of break through certain barriers that some people might have in terms of their fitness goals, and to also show you that adjusting our expectations can be helpful in terms of doing the things we want to do. If this episode was helpful, leave me a comment, subscribe if you want to subscribe, and I will try and keep cranking these out. I just want to thank you all for over 500 subscribers. This has been amazing, and I will catch you all in the next episode for a mental skill or something else. See you later.